Hi, I'm Dwight Mihalicz, President of Effective Managers. Thank you so much for joining me today on this part 2 of a series that I am recording on accountability in organizations. Today, we're going to be talking about why accountability is important in organizations. Too often in organizations, we find that accountability is not well understood and is not well implemented. So it's kind of like a double whammy in terms of not being able to make sure that your people are as effective as possible. So the question then becomes, why does accountability matter? This is part 2 of a series. I'm going to very quickly give you an overview of what we learned about in part 1, and then I'll move on to give you the why it matters part of accountability. The first thing that we learned in part 1 is that accountability is an obligation. So it's something for which one can be held to account. And in organizations, not only is it the results, but it's also your actions that you can be held to account for. The other part of accountability that's really important is that you can be held to account by a specified other. So that is something really important to remember. The second major theme of the first part of our series is that accountability is very different from responsibility. Now, both are important in organizations, but they are different, and understanding that difference is very, very important. So today we're going to talk about accountability matters. I want to give you a couple of insights, first of all. The first is this research from Gallup organization. I just love their research, and they're diving into it quite a bit for us lately. But work groups that are ineffectively managed are 50% less productive and 44% less profitable. The other fact that we really have to bear in mind is this one published by Lee Branham in the 7 Hidden Reasons Employees Leave. 70% of employees leave a job for reasons that are directly controllable by their managers. So just imagine that, 70% of employees leave their job for reasons that are controllable by managers, something important to learn. From our own organization, research that we partnered with the Telfer School of Management, we've also found out that managers only spend 55% of their time on value-added work. So that's 45% of their time is spent on work that could be thought of as not value-added work. Just imagine that. It's like the CEO asking all of the managers in the workplace to only show up mid-morning on Wednesday, halfway through the work week, to do their work. You can imagine what a fallacy that is, and yet we allow this to exist in organizations. So if we think about all of this combined in the research, what we can draw, the conclusion that we can draw, is that managers are not able to focus on their value-added work. That's the work that they, in their positions, with their capability, are able to do. So this has got 3 parts to it, really important. The first part is the day-to-day work and continuous improvement. I think of that as their day job. They come in and they have to make sure that this happens day in and day out. The second is projects or initiatives. Very often managers will be involved in special projects and asked to deliver that. So in these first 2, you can be sure that they are going to focus in on that work because it's urgent, it's ongoing, and it's being measured so that can be called to account for it very quickly. The third aspect, and the one that often doesn't even make it into position descriptions, is managerial leadership, doing their managerial work to ensure that everyone is being pulled together on their team in a way that is effective in helping to implement the strategy. So if anything is going to slip of these 3, and don't forget we're only spending 55% of our time on value-added work, it will tend to be that managerial leadership work. The performance management meeting can wait another day. I'm going to cancel the team meeting this week. Sorry, this one-on-one, I just don't have time for it, so let's meet next month instead of this month. That coaching session that I wanted to have will have to be delayed. That performance feedback where this person is having trouble, I'm going to have to wait on that one for a little while. All of these things that are so critical to management often are not getting done in organizations. The reason that this is so important is outlined in an article that was published first by James Heskett based on research that he did way back in 1994 in Harvard Business Review. And he made this point. The first one is that employee satisfaction drives customer satisfaction, drives revenue and profit. So if you have more satisfied employees, you have more satisfied customers, and that results in higher profit for the company. Or if you're a not-for-profit or a government agency, it results in a higher ratio of services to expenses. The founding of all of this that was put in place by Heskett is that managerial leadership drives all of these things. And I believe that what's been happening in organizations over the past few years to actually a couple of decades is that there's more and more focus placed on this employee satisfaction. You know, how do we make the environment and the task and the job and the relationships in the organization more satisfying for employees so that they can be more engaged. And there's been less attention, to the detriment of organizations, on this component of managerial leadership, the accountability that I have as a manager for doing my managerial leadership work. So what we really do need to do is focus back in, number one, accountability as a concept. How do we ensure that people understand what they're accountable for and understand that they will be called to task for it? But secondly, and underlying all of that, how do we ensure that managers are carrying out their accountability for their managerial leadership work? So this really is all about how work gets done and how we can help people to focus on doing exactly the right work. So as we see from the research, as we see from the data that I've given you around managerial leadership, and it's important in assuring accountability in organizations, you can see that getting those pieces in place is very, very important. Thank you very much for joining me today. My goal is to keep these sessions short and brief to give you good information in a short amount of time. I intend them all to be between 5 and 10 minutes. On this screen, you can see other ways that you can be in touch with me. Please feel free to reach out. And don't forget, if you enjoyed this video, do like it, make a comment, or give me some direct feedback. And don't forget to join my YouTube group, because then you'll get notice of the future postings. So thank you very much. I really appreciate your time today. Do feel free to be in touch with me if you have any feedback for me, any of your personal stories, or any questions that I can answer. Thank you.